Welcome back to another episode of The Goat's Gravy. We're excited to be here today. Scotty, we got to hire some help, man. We have no
We've
idea
got a
how
lot of
to set this
issues,
thing
a
up.
lot of issues,
Yeah,
Franny.
this is embarrassing. You're in the tech world. And by the way, if you hear heavy breathing, it's not because of the technical issues. Scott just sounds like Darth Vader. He can't back from the mic. So I
Yes,
just want to blame him up front.
I'm excited.
But we have a great guest today. We have Fran Garton with us, Charleston, South Carolina. Scotty's going to do the intro, but Fran, thank you so much for your patience. Happy to have you here. Man, you got a great background. So let's start to unpack.
Yeah, Franny, really appreciate you joining, my man.
It's my honor. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much for the invite, guys. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
So, Billy, I met Franny at ServiceNow,
Cool.
and we were, partners together in crime for a little while. Then we worked on the same sales team together, and now we're under a similar umbrella, and we're doing our thing. So, Franny, I'd love to hear in your words, just real quick, kind of how your kind of travels within tech
Yeah.
at a snapshot level, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate
Of
it.
course.
Man, I've been doing tech for about 30 years right now. I started.
Does it feel like 70, Franny? Be honest.
It does. It does. I'm a bicentennial baby, right? So I'm approaching my 50th year on this planet this summer. So in reflection, like it's been a great ride, and all of it's been in tech. It's sincerely all of it tech.
By the
I
way,
look.
congratulations. That's awesome. Scott's
Thank
way
you.
ahead of you.
Yeah.
I'm slightly ahead of you.
I'm getting a 70,
Yeah.
Franny.
I know, but he is someone I look up to. So it's all
As do I sometimes.
yeah, exactly. So, I started, interestingly enough, like, I'm not going to give you the whole background here, but like, I started in very basic, 1996, they passed the Telecommunications Act, and I was selling local long distance services, integrated T1 services, everything I did earlier in my career. That's why I love this podcast so much, and the topics. Everything I did early in my career was, door to door over the phone. So a lot of grassroots sales campaign efforts. A lot of my experiences have been in, the bullpen, if you will, right? Making a lot of phone calls after phone calls, all in technology. So I ended up through a couple acquisitions, starting my career from most of my career, early in career at AT&T. So, I got to see what big business means early in life. And then I moved over to the software business at Salesforce and then ServiceNow. And it's been a wild ride. I've seen everything from everything that's plugged in to unplugging things, right? To uh, the cloud to now where we're moving in this crazy world of AI. So I feel very fortunate. It's been a wild ride. And I'm honored to have been a part of it.
And Billy, before you jump in here, so Franny, the way that ServiceNow is segmented is right in the epicenter of early in career people. He is running the show as it relates to early in career. So, it's interesting that you're on this podcast now, The Goat's Gravy. And Franny, I know a lot of people at ServiceNow for a fact look up to you, seek your advice. I admire one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this podcast is because you do represent that voice of reason for a lot of the younger and career folks at ServiceNow. I really believe that's the case. And your network, whenever I need someone, I was doing a little pre-call, Billy, with him before we jumped on this afternoon. And I'm looking for, to increase my network in a certain part of the world.
Right.
Who do I go to? Franny Garton, my man, who's hooked up all over the place. So, that's why I thought he'd be a valuable asset to this podcast.
That's awesome. And obviously we're very passionate about, mentorship. And I think that's so important. We had great mentors in our lives growing up as young sales people and continue to this day. And so seeing you give back that way is awesome. So first question, Fran, really is obviously you've been in tech sales for a long time, but if you go back to early in career, what was it when you kind of had that feeling like, okay, I'm in the right place. This is the path. Like, what was that thing that kind of went off?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it wasn't in the first 13 or 14 years of my career. Actually, it was when I was over at Salesforce. I actually left AT&T to move to Salesforce, thinking I could be a leader, realizing, I was frustrated at my earning potential at AT&T. It was a great company, tons of great people there, but my goals were higher, my earning goals were higher, and software was just like really firing on all cylinders. And I had a great employee who left me and went to Salesforce. I said that would be a great company to look into. Next thing I know, I got a phone call from Salesforce because they get great recruiters, right? Um, so I actually went over there as a rep. I carried a bag. I said, "All right, let me go figure this thing out. If I can figure it out, I could probably do really well." And it wasn't until my second year there that I realized that, or actually second and a half year, that I realized, like, one, it's very painful to make that transition into a faster paced, solution based sale versus, I didn't think wireless and telecommunications necessarily is that dynamic of a solution sale because it can be somewhat looked as a commodity, but it's very involved as well. So I don't want to disrespect it. But there was more access to the C suite. There was more higher earning potential at Salesforce. And when I got recognized as a leader at Salesforce, then I felt okay, I made the right move. And that's when I took the chance on myself, picking up that bag. We all are salespeople. We know that could go either way, especially in a new industry and new motion. And I came in guns and blazing, like I knew everything. And the reality is, they put me in my place really quickly. You know what I mean?
You get humbled very quickly.
I got humbled really quickly. Like, I came in like Salesforce director, ready to go. I've been here. I've done that. Give me the ball. Just give me the ball. And what ended up happening was like, and they were talking about 5, 10 years, my junior sales reps coming to me on, that's not, this is not our process. Like, we don't want you to say this anymore. And then I remember feeling like, wow, I need to start listening to my own advice as a leader. So
Isn't that true?
that was the moment that I realized, all right, I did the right move. And, obviously when dollars hit the bank account, that helps. And, that was when I realized this was the right move.
That's a big point though, because it's interesting you say that. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. And companies talk about it all the time, especially an early stage company. What gets you from point A to B isn't what gets you from B to C. But even in our own careers, you have to keep learning. You have to keep adapting because I've seen leaders from other companies, kind of run through a certain style of how they lead, how they operate. They go to a new company, and that doesn't always transfer or translate into that new environment. So I'd love to kind of hear, how did you work through that? Because that had to be frustrating in the beginning when you felt you're just trying to run your playbook, but it's not necessarily working. And now you're getting feedback from people like, "Hey, man, your playbook doesn't work
Yeah.
here."
Yes. It's interesting because um, it's about, it's similar to handling rejection, right? Like we talked about that as salespeople. When you're super confident, you kind of let your ego get in place and place. Like I personally, and Scott knows me for a long time. Like I don't have an ego. Like I have zero ego. Like you get what you get.
I've tried to find one, Billy. I can't.
But
You keep
but let's talk about feedback for a second, right? So someone gives you feedback. Um, it's a typically depends on who it is. Do you respect that person? Is it an older person? Is it someone who's been there and done that? The thing that was different in my situation was there were people giving me feedback that were like at 5, 10 years my junior. And I wasn't listening to it at first. And then I listened to it. And then I understood the culture. And then once I understood the culture, then I started to observe the process. And once I observed the process, all right, I see how you do this. Let me take your process and introduce some of the things that I feel like I can accelerate or add fire to or add gas to, excuse me, that can really make this a special process. But I think what the answer to your question is, you can't take it personally. And that goes back to like the earlier in career folks who constantly take a lot of that things personally, especially if you lose your confidence after a bad week. You kind of have to figure how to pick yourself up and get back up. And I remember saying to my wife, like, I was 38 years old. I was like, I cannot believe I feel like an absolute loser. And And I remember my wife saying, "Well, why are you racking your brain trying to please everybody?" I'm not. She said, "Well, why don't you do what you do well?" And what I do well is I find projects. I find
Yeah.
deals. So
So
go
Franny,
That's good.
no, go ahead and finish, buddy.
no, that's it. Just go find deals.
Go find deals. Yeah. In our pre chat, we were talking about coachability was one of the things that I've seen and observed you being really strong at, Franny. And when we were talking about it, Billy, an hour or so ago, I've recently had a situation where I won't name names here, but this person thinks they're coachable and they're not coachable. And it's probably the worst trait. It's probably why, Franny, a lot of your hires, and Billy, same with you, have had some type of an athletic background, because the advantage there is they have had a coach come down their street. They have had to pivot on the way they're thinking, or else they're probably not getting the playing time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Franny, you just said a couple interesting things. As our audience here might be looking at moving into a certain job, might be looking at changing jobs, like investigating the culture first and then making sure you're coachable second. Any advice for our listeners out there as it relates to how do you do your homework and make sure that the landing spot and the culture is going to be a good fit so you can be coached?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I would say before I consider a landing spot, I'd want to take some stock into myself or the person that's going to need that we're talking about here. I find there's three things that evolve around coaching and being coachable, and one is most people don't realize this, but natural defense mechanisms normally come up, so they become defensive. And when
Billy's
someone
very, very defensive.
Super, super.
You just wait. Keep going, friend.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly, right? So, like, can you put your guard down, right? And then, um, some people, uh, don't realize this, but their mind and moves to their mouth too fast for excuse making. And excuse making almost is something from our childhood that never really kinda let go, right? Because as adults, there's no excuses. You either did the work, you didn't do the work, right? So excuse making is still part of that, like, earlier in career kind of cloud, right? And we help those folks mature as professionals, then the excuse making starts to kind of fall off. And then I would say if you have resistance to feedback, which shockingly so many people really do, to be very honest with you, and it is the differentiator between your ability to go up the ladder or to have a quality of life, believe it or not. I believe they're two in the same, right? You can have a quality of life if people give you feedback, and you can have a quality of your professional life if you can take feedback. So
Sure.
That's really
so
good.
I look for curiosity, accountability, and the willingness to improve. That's how this summarizes to me.
Yeah,
Right on.
great. I mean, feedback is a gift. That's what we always talk about. So whether it's constructive, positive, it's a gift. And so also your ability to deliver that. And Scotty, you're a great coach. I've watched you coach a lot of reps when we're together. And he actually gives me great advice all the time. We help each other out, different things we're dealing with. But man, taking that feedback and applying it, that's something else. So it's one thing to hear it. Are you really listening and hearing what you're being told? And then how do you actually put it into action? So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is how the tech world's evolved right over the last decade, but you kind of started talking through that. I mean, you had to adapt yourself with the move to Salesforce. But as you continue to make changes in your career, you're now at ServiceNow. What are some things that you'd highlight where you say, okay, I've continued to take that feedback. I've continued to be coachable. I continue to evolve with my career as I continue to move through different opportunities in my space.
Yeah. I feel like you have to be consistent. Uh, continuity of a leader is so important, right? The ability to treat people the way you want to be treated, cooler heads prevail. But, maintaining the sense of coolness or calmness around change. because what's happening in our environment, as many other industries, I'm sure as yours as well, is change is a constant. So right now, um, the ability to just kind of look at everything's in front of you and realize, all right, what am I in charge of? Right. Like in my world, control your controllables. I know it sounds so cliche, but it's the absolute truth. And I think a lot of people, what happens is, just to kind of bring us back to earlier in career, is they get distracted. A lot of folks get distracted and they get caught up in the rumor mill and the water cooler talk and everything that's out there. Um, but if you keep your head down, your nose clean, and focus on the main job responsibilities of what was asked for you, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I've noticed this, Franny, when Billy asked the evolution of tech, you mentioned AT&T. You're now where the cool kids are with software.
Right.
And now look at AI, right? And that's the next evolution, whereas almost software is being left behind. We know that's not true, but there's certainly that view in the market that software is going to, or AI is going to take over the world. But it makes me think about, again, going back to our prep, results versus activity, right? And you mentioned attitude once, you mentioned activity versus results. This is sales, right? And this is a sales podcast to many, to some degree. Billy, we've had a lot of sales, younger and career folks. We've had a lot of sales leaders like Franny on. You had mentioned you're pretty passionate about this topic, results versus activity. And I've got my own spin on this, and I get really frustrated with how some leaders view this. But what are your thoughts on that topic?
It's a very special topic for me, only because like I listen, guys, I still remember my pitch from knocking on doors, selling local and long distance telephone service. Like I remember it to this day because that's how important it was to me to kind of understand and handle those objections. And the only way to get better is to practice. So what I think is many new reps focus on being busy than they focus on being effective, right? So it's very important to kind of keep your bifocals on and be able to determine the difference because most reps need to make calls with a purpose. What you hear a lot is sometimes just a lot of noise and you don't hear the purpose. Same thing with sending generic emails. Like there's a handful of earlier career folks that prefer email over the phone, right? I can't I can't tell you that that's 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 successful in my business. I don't think it is, right? So you have to be able to draw the line between confusing activity volume with pipeline quality, right? And that really is about coaching to outcomes and not just effort. Now, I feel like I learned that the hard way, and I think most people our age, not to age us, um, had to learn those things the hard way. If you think about all the tools from a prospecting perspective that we did not have, that earlier career reps have, it's it's vast, like it's
Sure.
unmeasurable, right? So, so I believe that you can get stronger activity and results by doing effective prospecting from earlier in career folks by leveraging some of the technology, right? Even AI, AI, a lot of the good work that I've seen from effective prospecting is developed from AI, having a
Mm,
stronger point of view, right?
yep.
Knowing something a little bit more about just whether or not that prospect likes bowling and movies, right? Like it's more than that, right?
Mhm.
It's being able to create a, I will say, a value hypothesis, right? A value hypothesis, right, can get somebody closer to pick up the phone and call you back or reply to you if you know something a little bit more closer to their business and potentially the value outcome that's going to derive from it. So, like, it's a hard thing to do to get a C level to pick up the phone, but if you're that much closer to the business, you got a good shot.
Billy, can I ask you a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
So Franny's just talking about going off script here a little bit, but it's definitely I think would hit the audience's desire to understand maybe how to build pipeline, Franny. So you mentioned leveraging all omni-channel. Could be AI, it could be old-fashioned writing a note, could be email, could be phone. So we had Bobby Hersberger on this podcast in the past. He's since moved on to another company. So for our younger folks in career, I think it's really good. You've just graduated college, potentially you might be in your first 5 years out. Stay in touch with your peers and ask them the hard question, which is, how are you having success? So one of Bobby's recent ways that he was able to crack like a really huge prospect, and Franny, I think I may have told you this. He sent out a press release with the names of his company and the names of the customer on it as a joint press release prior to them doing business. And I would have never thought that that would work. And now he's got their CEO in a place where they're having a real business conversation about a partnership. I'm like, dude, that's super
Very
creative
creative.
prospect.
Yeah.
What about on your side? Is there anything that any of your leaders, or because leaders still prospect for
Oh yeah.
sure,
Oh yeah.
have done that's kind of out of the box where you looked at it and said, man, that might either be super basic or super out of the box?
I, I'd have to put some thought to anything that's really creative out of the box. I would say on the channel for sure. But in our world, it's a little bit different, right? Because my organization, you'll reach out and email, but typically you're cold calling by showing up at a surgery center, a hospital. You're going into a practice. You're trying to get in front of trying to work through the gatekeeper to get that live meeting set up.
So it's
A
still
lot of
old
people,
school relationship with the gatekeeper.
it is, and you're leveraging those relationships to get to other people. However, we have reps that do a really good job of leveraging social media
Hmm.
to make those connections, whether they're working through, Facebook on the personal side, or really LinkedIn.
Yep.
Again, LinkedIn right now, it's an interesting environment. You have a lot of self promotion out there, but you also have people still utilizing it to go make good business contacts. We also have a lot of conferences, so we
Yeah.
we get a lot of opportunities to get in front of people. But I would tell you right now, what we're seeing more of is AI tools allowing us to get better prospecting done, better messaging, looking at where people did their school and connecting the dots with some of our existing customers. So we can go to those customers, ask for those intros. But I love what Bobby did. That's really creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Franny, you'll appreciate this. I asked my team for something to get prepared for a call that I was going to be on. And I won't call out any names, but I got this AI Claude report. It was so generic. It was really cool looking, but it didn't answer the question I asked. And it was frustrating. And I think we're starting to see a lot of AI fatigue. It's like, how about you answer the question in a email just that I asked versus it looked really sexy. And I was impressed. I couldn't wait to read it. I read it. I was like, man, this is no value to me.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if you guys are seeing any of that, but man, is it frustrating.
I found myself using it before I'd send a customer message out just to spot check. But actually it's I don't know. I like personalizing it better. I still do handwritten notes. I just love
Yep.
handwritten. I think a customer gets a handwritten, they're impressed. They expect the email follow-up. But I do think you're seeing some of that fatigue. I know I have people in our company that are kind of going against it. They'll use it for planning purposes, but
Mhm.
ultimately, my view of the world with AI, and I have some friends that are really, really engaged with the platform working for AI companies, where it's used best is still using the human critical thinking, right? Leverage AI to do your research, to pull data. But if you're not spending the time to really understand what it's telling you and try to come up with your own narrative from that data, I think it's a miss. You've got to use critical thinking, and some of the best people I know that are using it do it that way, and it's serving them very well.
Yeah. Is that what you're seeing, Franny? You use it as a tool versus a solution to all things. I mean, what do you see out there?
Yeah, I think probably a little bit of both, but I would say, you know, I, I, I don't think that it ever will fully replace the connection that you're going to make, right? Like in my opinion, it's helped reduce clock time. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do. Prep
Clock,
time.
right? These are stages inside a deal or inside an ask within whatever you're in the deal. Being able to construct a value statement or put together some, you know, existential piece of information that's related to an implementation or to a deal or to some sort of political structure or whatever it needs to be done, it it, it shortens the time and deliverables are faster. So like the way you use it can definitely increase the sales cycle 100%. Um, I think I think when you get to the board room, you gotta have a little bit more than just what Claude is gonna spit out.
No doubt. And dude, Billy mentioned a couple seconds ago, Franny, the way some of his teams get lead is they hit a conference. How many conferences, Franny, have you been to? Have I been to where we probably didn't do as much action as I probably could have, and to the younger and career folks showing up at these conferences, networking within an office.
Yeah.
Like my kids right now are at an office right now 3 days a week. And I'm like, take advantage of it while you're there. Do not take the easy train because I think a lot of folks in their 20s and 30s are looking to get that one day in a week, that second day. But what you can gain by running into a Billy, a Franny, myself, we've talked about this on prior podcasts, Billy. We will take the time with you. I promise you. So, AI is not going to be the solution for everything. It's your attitude and activity, internal and external, that'll set you free, I believe.
Yeah. And doing the prep work, like before we go to a conference, it's not just show up and hope you
Yeah.
run into people.
Yeah.
Obviously you pay, you get the list of who's attending, you do your research, you know who's going to be there, you know what certain people look like. You sit in the lobby in the morning with the coffee and you see your target, you jump up and you go grab 'em and say hello
Scare them.
and scare them and game on. But I personally, I love that. Like I love networking. I love being in those meetings and just connecting with people and even those that aren't interested. Just why not ask them if they have a partner, a junior partner, or someone else that they might be. And we've gotten a lot of leads just from having those conversations. People are happy to connect and help out. You just got to ask the question.
Yeah, Franny, I believe I gotta say this. We went to go see a movie last night, Obsession. Have you guys heard about this movie, Obsession?
I've heard of it. I've
It's
not.
scary, yet creepy, yet weird, yet low budget, yet very profitable. 2 people walked out of the like, it ended at, like, 11 PM. At 10:30, 2 couples left because it was so disturbing. So I was kinda shaken by it, and I'm with my wife, her name's Christy, we're walking out, and I'm like, "Man, that was something." It was just very creepy movie. And Christy, of course, Christy, Billy, just has to ask this person sitting, "Hey, did you see that movie? What did you think?" I didn't wanna talk to anyone. I didn't wanna mention the movie at all, and all she wants to sit down and talk. So, never lose that flair, I guess, is my point.
Genuine curiosity.
Yeah,
Genuine
you nailed
curiosity.
it. Nailed it. Like, I feel like, sometimes earlier in career reps often kinda rush themselves, right? They talk too much or they don't ask enough questions, and sometimes they miss the real challenges, right? Either the customer's challenges or the person that they're talking to because they're trying to get themselves in somebody's frame, right? Either for career advancement or just, "Hey, look at me. Look at me. Hey, just look at me," right? And, strong and that kinda, it doesn't help them separate themselves from a top performer, but you really have to find some people that you look up to. Like I love that you guys talk about mentoring. You guys are great mentors, and I think it's phenomenal. It's my thing on mentorship is so different sometimes. I worked for AT&T, and that was such a company like, hey, we got to get you a mentor. You need a mentor. Salesforce same way. You need a mentor. And then, I remember this woman being my mentor at AT&T, and T, and she was an executive, and I was, like, impressed by her office, and I remember sitting down and her saying, "What should we talk about?" Or her saying, "Tell me what problems you wanna
Was
work."
she actually whispering to you, friend?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing that, but that's kinda how it felt then.
You got my attention.
And
Worked.
And I remember being like, I don't know what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like forced mentorship is the worst, right? So I always try to tell young people or earlier in career people is you're in your work environment, you're in your personal life. You see people that are successful. You see people the way they interact with other people. Professionally, you've been in other meetings, you've seen people conduct themselves. If there's anyone you hear that you like the way they sound, or you like the way that they look, or you like the way that, hey, oh, that guy's got a nice car. He lives in that town. I'm curious. Curiosity is what's going to drive you. Curiosity is what's gets you in front of someone that's probably similar or like-minded like yourself, that your goals and your ideas of what good looks like are probably somewhat similar. So I'd rather listen to what you got to say than versus someone that's forcing me to talk to you about mentorship.
Yeah, I got a call today from someone that I mentor off like it wasn't a scheduled mentor. He texted me, "Hey Scott, can I grab a couple minutes today?" And that's the way people that are my age, Billy's age. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but let's just say for the next 10 years, people the decision makers are probably going to want that text. That may change over time, but I really appreciated the way he did it. He texted me, "Scott, you got a couple minutes? No problem. How about this time?" Yup. We talked for 15 minutes. It was an actual conversation. "Hey, this is the situation I'm in. What do you think?" Boom, boom, boom. We were done in 15 minutes. It served a purpose. He had the questions dialed in. But when I go to a college campus, Billy, and you've seen this, and you walk into even a restaurant or a bar, what's everyone doing? Heads down. No one's talking, dude. What is happening? So it kind of concerns me a little bit for younger and career folks that might be listening to this, how they're going to handle a conversation with a Franny.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to just be the digital mode. Get out of your comfort zone and pick up the phone, text them, and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right, Franny?
Yeah, man. And if you don't have someone in your life, like I mentioned, like, go find one. Everyone needs a rabbi in their life. They need a mentor. They need someone that they can talk to. Matter of fact, one of my first manager at AT&T, I just got his son a job the other day, and we still speak. And I speak to a professor that I had in school. I check up on him, make sure he's still alive in his apartment. Like these are people that you know tried to help me. So I just feel like it's part of my purpose to pay it forward
I
and
love that. So I've talked about this book a lot on this podcast, but there's a old book, Never Eat Alone. Don't know if you read that one, Fran, but
oh,
that's the advice, right? You're driving home from the airport or a trip, or you're on the road driving to an appointment. Just pick up the phone and call someone in your Rolodex and just check in on them, see how they're doing, and keep that connection going. I think that's phenomenal advice. I'd
Dude,
love to hear.
Billy, you're one of the best at it. Let's be honest. And
I talk a lot. I
Dimitri,
talk a
who's
lot.
here in the studio here, Billy's like, show up at whatever time. I show up a little bit early, doing a little prep, and
He's
here he is.
never early, by the way.
Shut your
He's
mouth.
never early.
He's pacing, Franny. He's
First,
pacing in the kitchen.
by doing that, you've created this. Like, by doing this, you have this network. By behaving that way,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
network is already engaged. The people that go on LinkedIn and connect randomly through up and down and send random message. I applaud those efforts. It's a lot easier in life if you build a network of people that have consistently tried to give and take and with equal respect.
do you want to finish that? Or are you good?
No, no, no. I could talk about networking. For once in his life, Franny, he
Yeah.
actually asked the question. It didn't bolt into his comment. He actually caught me off guard because I'm not used to it. So I didn't know what to say.
Such a jerk.
I love it.
That's hilarious. So, Fran, if you think back to maybe who has been, I'm sure there's a handful of individuals, but if there's one that really stands out that you feel like influenced how you sell, is there something that you're still using, practical advice you got way back when that you're still using today? It's always stuck with you.
Um, well, you definitely caught me on the spot on that one, Billy. Um, you know, I would say, as a leader, I try to keep things simple, right? I don't try to over communicate an objective or a message. And as a rep, like your feet always have to be moving um, I believe in activity. Like I believe in constantly trying to find opportunities. And once you kind of give up that, or that feeling feels stale, then you're probably need to do something else. I mean, I've gotten so much great advice over the years. I mean, there's so many funny moments, ups and downs, but I would say I had a manager at Salesforce who's no longer with us, who gave me some really, really strong enablement. And within that enablement was confidence, right? Like confidence to go ahead and do something different in front of a client, or go ahead and challenge the status quo of what a process or a motion in a deal look like. Take outside. He gave me great advice around taking like, the world and the industry and what's happening in the world, and relate it back to the customer. And it just changed my whole way that I looked at tech and how tech solves business problems. Next thing you know, I'm helping customers talk through other concepts like change management and other aspects of their business. And I felt like without that patience and enablement, I wouldn't have been able to up level my game and create different talk tracks that connected with contact in my world, contact center leaders and customer service leaders, right? So, um, just think about that. Like, salespeople aren't patient, right? Salespeople aren't typical great enablers. We like, salespeople, when you're done selling, you go enable, right? We, this person, again, took extra time to be patient with me and learn the
Mhm.
tech. And I'm forever grateful.
I gotta tell you, man, my wife and I went to a concert last week, and randomly, we're downtown Chicago, we're in Wrigleyville, ran into, one of my first bosses and a mentor of mine, Sean McKenna, and he's gonna come on the podcast. Really, really smart dude, uber successful guy.
Shout out to Shawnee.
Shout out to Sean. That was hilarious. We were laughing so hard because he was telling the story to my wife. My wife basically was telling him how I still just am a motor mouth. But, he's like, "Man, I used to hang up on him." Like, I would call him all excited after a sales call, and I think I probably told this story before, but like, "Oh, this is what happened." I'd go way too into the weeds of details, and then all of a sudden I'd realize, I've been talking to myself for 10 minutes. I'd call him back. Like,
He
"Where you
hung up.
lost me?" He's like, "I didn't lose you. I hung up on you." He's like, "Just give me the bottom line up front." Like, "Oh, okay, gotcha." So he really helped me learn. I'm much better in front of executives with executive speak, it being
Yeah,
short and concise, than I am randomly just having conversations.
it's
But
so true. It's so true, Billy. But Billy,
yeah.
it's so funny you say that. I'm like I said, I gave away my age in the beginning, but um, some of the things that I'm personally working on. And listen, I'm I live in Charleston, but I'm from the Northeast, so sometimes it's very hard for me to shut my mouth. And And
Yeah.
Good.
I'm purposely trying to do that. Scott has noticed that in meetings that we're in, like, I'm keeping my mouth shut until like, I'm not trying to not participate, but I wanna I wanna be able to let some other people talk. And then the other thing that I'm working on, that I'm trying to do a better job, is not to interrupt people. As hard as rude and crude as that sound, is like, I am trying not to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great because this guy right here, he's about to talk. I did that on
I was
purpose.
just about.
But he does. He calls me out, and I love it
I
because it gives you that awareness, like, "Oh, crap, I gotta bite my
Yeah,
tongue."
yeah.
So
It's
we're all trying to get better. We're all trying to be better all the time.
goes back to coaching, right, Franny? And critical. Just I was just going to make. We're coming to an end of the podcast here, but I was just going to make an observation. Between the similarities, Franny. If I look at you and working with you for so many years, and I've known Billy now a long time and been working with him, and what you have in common is the advice I give people. Right at the end of the day, it's like, hey, do you have one piece of advice that you think will stick for my career? And everyone's got something different, everyone. But for me, right, it's attitude and activity. You guys both have a really cool attitude, a really fun attitude, an attitude that's that's very question based, right? That's very curiosity based, right? And then just the activity. Like Billy doesn't stop traveling, you don't stop traveling. And sometimes my advice to both you guys, and in fact, this is true, and you can, you know, check me on this. you guys are traveling too much, right? So, because you need that operational command, you need the time with the family, but damn, do you guys love the road and your teams love you for that, right? So it's finding that balance. But if those are two pieces of advice that you're entering into this workforce and you want to listen to some folks that have been doing this a long time, keep the attitude light, have it question based. One, and just be super active. That could be in the office, that could be on the road if you do now have the ability to travel. And I just commend both you guys for those two qualities and kicking some serious ass with both of those. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. Look at that. He gave a compliment on the way out. That doesn't normally happen
Yeah,
with.
it's
I'm sure
rare.
I'm going to get it as soon as we hang up.
It's rare.
That's all right.
It's rare.
Thank you. And back at you, dude. This guy's a
Yeah, back
phenomenal
at you
coach.
for sure.
Yeah.
Back at you.
Very successful. Listen, I think in closing, it would be awesome just to hear maybe 2 or 3 key takeaways in terms of advice you'd have for someone just graduating. Maybe they're starting their first SDR or BDR job or role, or someone that's maybe 3 to 5 years in. What advice do you have for them that you think would serve them well as it has served you throughout your career?
Yeah, I would say understand where the company's going, right? Get an idea of where the direction is the company's going, and try to align your efforts and activities towards those priorities, right? So, making your mark, right? Making your mark is very important. I always say this: gotta make your mark. Like, and I don't want someone to say that, and meaning like go out there and punch somebody in the locker room, but go out there and say, hey, like I've got a lot of these type of industries. I'm going to figure out how to break into them. I'm going to do something uniquely different, or I'm going to continue to work until I reach my meeting objectives, right? Whatever it is, you have to get people to notice your effort, and once people notice your effort, they get involved in business. And once they're involved in their business, you're involved in deals, and then that's where you have to listen, right? Like really, really listen.
Just Billy, it just reminds I won't even name the company, but I got so lucky, Franny, coming out of college. I got a pretty cush gig. And I thought it was like that. I thought it was you could get success by I worked, but it wasn't that hard. And I was like, everyone told me hard work, Scott, is going to get you to the top. And I had this gig and I was doing well, making decent money, but that was the only job that I ever had like that. My next job was actually hard. And it's for the last 30 years, it's been hard. But man, I got fooled. I got fooled. So these younger and career folks, and again, I'll protect the innocent, might be interns, might be first year, watching their lack of attitude and activity. I'm like, man, they're gonna get what's coming to them, and I don't want to see it, right? And that's why I hope they're listening to this podcast.
For sure. And I just say in closing, at the end of the day, you got to earn it. You got to earn everything. Don't take the shortcuts. There's no perfect shortcuts. People get lucky sometimes, but at the end of the day, if you do the work and you do it well and you treat people well along the way, you're going to figure it out. And you're going to be uber successful.